back. Welcome back to the Extraordinary Drummer Show. As you know, I'm your host, Cheron Moore. Oh, today, I always say today. This is an interview I wanted for so long. I was actually kind of nervous to approach him. And then I talked to the secretary over at the company and she said, well, you got to approach him. And I felt
we've been friends for so long. How could you not?
I don't know. I finally got the nerve up to email him, and I was so surprised. He said, yeah, let's do it. Come on, let's do it.
It's fun. We get to hang out and talk with you for a while.
You all know my guest today. I should tell you, he's the president, chairman, and CEO of the awesome cymbal company, SABIAN Cymbals. Will you help me welcome my guest today, my friend, Andy Zildjian. Hey, Andy.
Hello, Cheron.
Let me ask you this one, Andy.
Yep.
Did you know that, or have you ever heard that the name Zildjian means son of cymbal making?
Have I ever heard that? The ZIL means cymbal. The DJ means Smith. And IAN means son of in Armenian. And now here's the thing. It's like we have a history, a family history that goes back, recorded almost about 400 years. The name was given to us before that. So it could go all the way back another 100 or even 2. But we don't have written history of it. So we couldn't actually say anything with that because if it's not written down, it's conjecture, right? It could be an educated guess, but unless it's written down, you just can't say it.
Let me go back a little bit. You originally from Boston?
Yeah, yep. I was born and brought up in Boston, and traveled up to Canada a lot when we had the factory there. But I've lived in a few different places. I lived in Georgia for a while. I lived in Virginia for a while, and then back up to the Boston area to manage the United States and the East Coast. So yeah, I've lived in many different places.
Andy, were you ever a drummer, or did you ever want to be a drummer?
Okay, so my brother was a drummer and members of the family were drummers. So I thought maybe I should play guitar. So I would go down to the basement and play on the drum set that was there and take guitar lessons. And after about 4 years of guitar lessons, my guitar teacher asked me, she said, hey, do you play any other instruments? And I'm thinking, oh, she can tell. She can hear my rhythm. And I said, yeah, I play drums. And she said, maybe you should play drums. She booted me.
You own a drum set, Andy?
Oh, heck yeah, yeah. Yep. I guess down in the basement right now.
Sweet. What was your high school years like?
Oh, high school years. At that point, there were bands that were coming out that I was listening to, and I was trying to emulate their sounds. It's like, Pat Benatar and Rush, which, forget it, and Aerosmith, and that was pretty easy actually. And listening to them, trying to play what they were playing without any background in playing. I just picked it all up by ear, and joined a band and had a good time doing that. At the same time, I was trying to become a professional hockey player, which was really, it was a blast. But oh my God, when I'm really tired, my left knee kills right now. If I yawn, my jaw won't close. I got an extra tooth here. It's a hell of a sport. But I did okay before my knees gave out, and that was the end of that. But high school was fun because there was no marching band at my school. There was none of that, and we didn't have much of a classical band, and jazz band was I wasn't good enough definitely for that. So I just joined a bunch of friends and played, for the most part, just rock and roll.
Did you always know that you wanted to be a cymbal person?
No, absolutely not. No, there were a couple of different times that I had different careers in mind. And one of them was, of course, like I said, becoming a professional hockey player. I wanted to do that. Injury, and I guess, the amount of skill, and I definitely was not fast enough for it. So that was the end of that. And after that, I joined the Army and thought that would be, I didn't think of it as a career, as more of just a way of I guess, reining myself in, because I had had so much fun at high school, and the first couple of years at college were not spent learning really as much as I should have. And I knew that I didn't want to come to SABIAN as a default. I wanted to come to whatever career I chose by choosing it and having a passion for it. And I knew that the part of that meant that I had to have the discipline to be able to work under people who eventually I would be their boss, but to work under people, take direction, be able to follow through on things. And you know, the Army was awesome for that. I learned a hell of a lot doing that. Plus I got to blow things up that you can't do anywhere else. But when I did left the Army, August 17th of 1986, and drove up to Canada on the next day, I started working at the factory.
Let me take you back to one that we already talked about a little bit, which was the hockey. What did your father think of you wanting to play hockey?
Well, he loved hockey too. He played when he was younger, and he ruined his knees as well. And he used to laugh at me and say, one of these days you're going to come hobbling in here on crutches, and that's going to be the end of that. And yeah, he was right.
I loved your father, man. What other things are you interested in?
Oh, well, still history. I love learning about history, in any type of history, all the way back to you know, plate tectonics, starting way back with how the Earth was put together and Gaia and how that moved apart and became the different continents that they are today, all the way up through, you know, philosophers of Greek philosophers, Roman, even modern day.
This one here is kind of a change in reels, and then I'll get back on. But I once heard you talk in an interview about how Armenians talk, how they argue and fuss and talk, and then they say, "Come on, let's go get some to eat." Tell me about that. And did you ever do that over at the company?
It would happen at the company. It would happen at on Sundays with the family. We get together. It would happen then all the time. My grandfather loved it. He loved haggling. He loved arguing. He loved being in control of the family. But then he would always listen too. This is the kind of thing I actually started to figure out when I was older, that he wasn't just arguing. He was pushing and pushing. And then he'd hear what the topic he wanted to hear, and he'd listen and it'd be done. But there are times. There was a woman who worked for my dad. She was a secretary who just started working at the factory. And this was back in like the 60s. And it was her first day. She was at her desk outside of his dad's office. And Dad walked over to Grandpa's office, which just across the way, and you see him, "Dad, what's up with the puppy?" And they'd start with this, and then Armin would come in and you go, and then the old man, my dad, would walk out and go into his office and slam the door and be there. And then like about an hour later, the Grandpa would come in. Dad would open up his door and say, "Bubby, where are we going for lunch?" It was just, I don't know. It was a method. It's certainly nothing that I could live by, but wow, it worked for them.
Do you ever do any of that stuff, Andy?
Oh God, no. I do like haggling. It's kind of fun. But at the same time, you know, now there's too much of my mother's side of the family in all of us to be able to pull that off.
When you was coming up around your father, and I want to talk about this a little bit. Mm-hmm. You wore a lot of hats. I have here a road representation, distribution. You did a lot of stuff. Tell me about that.
Well, and you know, I watched my dad go through different learning, different ways of learning the business, and he did a lot of you know, accounting, advertising, sales, manufacturing and stuff like that. And I thought that that's an excellent way to learn the business, is to actually be immersed in the business. And I'd seen people from other family businesses who were of my generation coming in and saying things like, "Well, I'm a vice president and I'm going to be vice president of X. And, you know, what are you going to say? No, because it's my family's name on the door." And then, you know, 10 years later, the company's being sold because that person never took the time to actually learn A, the business, B, the personalities involved in the business, and then how to be, a member of a team.
What was that moment like when you knew you was going to take over the company from your father? And were you nervous a little?
Um, Well, I kind of fell into it because my dad had a heart attack. And so he was stuck at his house in Maine, and I was traveling back and forth and coming up to the factory and being up here. And after a while, he said, you're in charge of South America and the United States. What the heck are you doing up at the factory? And I said, well, you had a heart attack. You're sick. You can't go up. And he goes, get out of here. Cut it out. So anyway, I knew, okay, he's feeling well, but I'd been coming up enough at that point and had been around the world enough to understand that we were doing well, but we could be doing better. So yeah, was I nervous? A little bit, but at the same time, I was confident enough. I was foolish enough and confident enough. How's that? To think that I can pull this off because I knew I could anyway, because I had a good support team.
We have a thing on the show that we call word of advice.
Oh, geez.
Oh, you're the perfect person for this one. Where I asked the drummers, where I asked the guests if they would leave a word of advice for the up and coming drummers, or even the guys at the next level that are trying to get traction in this game. Would you leave them a word of advice, please?
Well, a couple. One first thing that I can say right off the bat is personality counts. I know a lot of great drummers who aren't in bands because they're not good in the van. And if you're not good in the band, you're not going to join the band, or you're not going to stay in the band. So you really have to treat everybody well, and just, be a member of the band. Don't try to be, too cool or too hip. Let's see. Take risk. Take risk musically, take risk in what you're doing. Do it educatedly. In other words, don't just decide I'm going to jump off this platform and see what happens. Understand what happens, look ahead and plan things out and decide, I'm going to take this risk, and this is why, and this is where I think we're going to be. If you take that risk, if you fail, hey, you failed, but you learned something, and at least you did it with good intention and with good planning, which means that you can find out where it went wrong, fix that, and the next time you probably do really well. And one of the things I love about like new music is when people decide they're going to take a risk and just push the boundary. And now we've got something different to listen to, something that's exciting, interesting. And I don't want to bash too hard, but karaoke, I can't stand it. And that's kind of what I call, the music, publishing today is kind of like karaoke. But there are people out there who are pushing the boundary and making it fun and interesting to listen to. That's a key. That's how you get noticed, by doing educated risks and also being a good person.
Wow. Thank you, Andy.
Yeah.
I tell you, if we had to pay for that one, boy, that was expensive. And from someone with the experience. Here's another one. What's the most rewarding thing for you about and over at SABIAN?
The most rewarding thing, wow, really is God, there's so much. I mean, hanging out with the craftsmen, hanging out with the people who work here, hanging out with drummers, hanging out with musicians, but I think probably the thing that excites me the most is just the sound that we get out of our cymbals, the sound that we get from that living metal, and the energy that comes back out of it because of what we put into it. It just, like I said, I'll grab those cymbals over in the vault and start playing them, and I can, oh man, everything washes away. I can feel great. That is what excites me the most. That beautiful sound that comes out of these cymbals. Corny, yeah, but there it is.
You got it coming out of your veins, Andy.
It's bad, I know. I'm keeping the copper that comes out of my veins up here.
Are the kids showing any signs of wanting to be in the cymbal business and take over the company later on?
There are a few. My kids are my older daughter's a mathy, so she's who knows. Right now she's working for a company in New York City, and that's fine. I get experience somewhere else and have a job that actually has some rigor to it, so that you learn how to work under people, how you learn how to manage people, how you learn how to actually be responsible for a budget and achieving goals. That's wonderful. My younger daughter is still in university, but she's on her way to a PhD, so she's achieving as well. I mean, how do you say no to that? My sister's side of the family, there are a few there who I look at and think I want them. I want them. And you know, they're still younger and learning their way through the world. But I expect a couple of them to be working here, because they've got a drive, and they've got that same understanding of you have to know how to follow before you can lead type of thing. They understand how to be a leader without being bossy. And I like that. They're here. They're just still young. Everybody's young in our family. Hey, even me.
There's a question I always ask the guests at the end of the show, and that is, Andy, what would you want your legacy to be? How would you like to be told?
What would I want my legacy to be? Wow. Really, it comes down to those points again. I would want people to say that not only was I a fun and personable person that they liked being with, honest and true. I'm hoping intelligent. I'm hoping, and integrity, because I do believe in what we're doing here. I do believe in the family process and the hand-hammered, or not just hand manufacturing, doing things by hand and having that energy. And what we do, what we give to musicians that they can turn into their voice and give back to the world, is one of those things that when I'm watching somebody play and the crowd is going nuts for it, it makes me feel really, really, really good, because that energy came from us and from the drummer and is now igniting the crowd. Huh. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe this is the Buddhism that I studied. I'm not quite sure, but somewhere along the line, this whole idea of energy transfer, just, I can feel it, and you can hear it, and other people, they get energized when people are able to play live again and more often and in larger groups. It's a thrill that I hope everybody gets to enjoy.
Wow. Yeah, we need a part 2 and a part 3 and a part 4, because there's so many caveats in there, so many other ones. Let me say thank you so very much for being
Sure.
on the Extraordinary Drummer Show.
Yeah. Hey, you want to do it again next week?
Sure.
Will you be ready?
A weekly thing. There's so much more to learn. Again, thank you so much for being on the Extraordinary Drummer Show.
Cheron, it's fun to talk with you.
Will you help me wave goodbye to all of the fans, all of the audience?
Thank you.
Hey, Todd Zuckerman here at the Zoo Amphitheater in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. I believe that's where it is. What can I say about Andy Zildjian that hasn't already been said? Here are these. Thank you for these. Thanks for everything. Great man, hilarious man, a friend. And there you go. I hope you're safe and well wherever you are. And I'm going to be playing these things tonight, and quite happily so. So cheers, take care, and stay safe.
Hey, this is Chester Thompson, and I want to talk to you a little bit about Andy Zildjian. I count Andy a friend. I feel very privileged to be a part of the SABIAN family. Everybody up there is just in it. It's a great family atmosphere, but that doesn't get in the way of taking care of business. The quality of the cymbals is just amazing. And I just want to say congratulations, Andy. It's been a pleasure knowing you. I look forward to continuing to be a SABIAN artist and working with you for a long time to come. All the best to you, brother.
Hey everybody, David Garibaldi here. Wow, Cheron, you're interviewing Andy. Pretty cool. So, I have a special place in my heart for the Zildjian family. I'm a Sabian guy for life. It's just great gear, great people. Andy and his family, they've been so nice to me. And so anyway, have fun with him, Cheron. All right. Hello, Andy. Bye.
Andy, congrats. And I thank you for being who you are, man. All right, Fred Dinkins out.